First of all, good morning. It's morning here, and wherever you are, good day. Whatever time it is, good to be here and to be back. And for those who are joining for the first time, thank you for being here. You can read my bio anytime on my website if you want to know more about who I am and a little bit about my life as a person. I was going to say as a priest, but a person. I'm a person. And so I got a few questions that came in, were very good from the last time we spoke or engaged, rather. And I will be fusing those answers today into what we will talk about today. So let's take a pause and come into this space, even though we're on the screen here, but coming into our own bodies by using our breath and hearing my voice as a way of helping you to ground. And hopefully it is helpful. If it's distracting, sorry about that. Continue to breathe and come. And just let go of all the things you think might happen in this moment at this time. And just allow whatever to be, to be. If you're having any problems during our session, you can just direct them to Kikaku. And thank you, Kikaku, for introducing me here.
Zenju, would you, I forget how we did the chat last time. Do you want it to remain only for help stuff or do you want it to be open?
I think if there's anything that needs to be chatted, this is all I can say, is that it comes to you because I won't be reading them. I will not be reading the chat.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I can say.
That's a good thing to note. Like, please only use the chat to hosts or co-hosts, me or Upaya Zen Center, to ask for help with technical issues. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay, let's go. I really was excited about this chapter, making offerings to ancestors. I felt all week like, well, I really don't have to study that one again. I can just come. And because it's so much in my body and it's part of how I live, really. It's my life. It's not something that's outside of me. And it wasn't outside of me even when I started my path and my walk with the Dharma. So I purposely have that chapter at the beginning of the book, the Shamanic Bones of Zen, so that when one begins the reading, they have a sense or idea of ancestors and coming into even the reading as ceremony. So you're not just reading the book. You're not, okay, I read the introduction. I don't know if it has one. And then, and then you read this chapter and that chapter, but that you enter the reading itself as ceremony. And so that chapter, making offerings to the ancestors, right up front was purposeful. And I also thought about this morning, sometimes before I do my talks, or all the time, I have my ancestor altar over here, and then an altar behind me. I have altars everywhere in my house. And so my house is my temple. And so when before I talk, I made water offerings to my ancestors that not only has my parents, but has animal figurines like a panther, which is one of my familiars for me, and other different things that to me relate to the earth, like fire, incense, water. I have rice on my altar because my parents fed us rice like almost every day. They're from Louisiana, and Louisianans eat rice, a lot of rice, a lot of fish and rice. So that's my upbringing. So I put that there for them. Cigar for my father because he smoked cigars, which I hated that he would smoke those cigars in the house. And it's funny now because I don't mind that smell anymore. I have a rattle on my altar. So I'm not showing it all because if I break down my camera and all, I'm afraid I might not make it back. So I'm just very nervous about that. So anyway, I hope you can imagine it. And then behind me, I lit a candle to have a fire, and Jizo Bodhisattva, who is a protecting Bodhisattva. So I want to, as we begin this entrance into this, is read something to you that's at the beginning of the chapter. And so in a way, this reading is like an invocation into this chapter. So each chapter has a little invocation. And this one I want to read. Okay. Candles are lit and placed on altars that have been prepared beforehand, laid with fine cloth upon which to receive the offerings. The rice and tea are carried in red lacquer cups and trays. Each person in the procession holds a tower of offerings at the heart, their hands positioned on either side of the tray. The offerings are aligned so as to make a picture of palms joined in reverence. The hands are connected to the offering. The hands are to give and to receive. The offering is raised over the bowed head of the receiver, the teacher, the one who has embodied the teachings for decades, as the offering to Buddha is one's whole life. So, the offering to Buddha is one's whole life. So even in that verse, you're seeing that when you're making offerings, it's to life. And everything on the altar is a representation of life. And it's to bring reverence to that life. So what are making offerings? Let's start there. I wrote, and this is the second paragraph for translation. I sent them some readings. Making offering is an act of spirit through our bodies. So we are not doing something. We are being led to an alignment with the unseen, the suchness, and the unexpressible and the unsurpassable. So we're trying to reach what we can't reach. And sometimes our normal living, our normal way of going about life. We're so often caught in the things that we do that I find making offerings is a way to pause and to not try to see the unseen, not try to grasp the unsurpassable or the suchness, but to experience maybe the unsurpassable, the immeasurable, the unsuchness. And we may not experience it either, maybe in the way we think we might experience it. But something happens, and that is very individual. It's very personal in a sense, too, even though the offerings are for everyone, not just your whole life, but everyone's life, so that they too may feel the offerings. That even someone who is homeless or who has no food can feel the offerings of rice or the offerings of water. But this can only feel real to you if you believe in or have a sense of, I would say, that most of our spiritual path is unseen and can't be described, articulated, or concretized so that we can say it actually is happening. And so this is why many paths talk about faith. And why many people are afraid of blind faith, because it's very hard to do something not knowing what the result will be. When everything we do, we don't know really what the result is. Even right now, we don't know the result of our coming together. And you don't know the result of your sitting here now, or the impact it will have on you or on me, or even on the people that live with you or around you, or that you will see a stranger that you might go to the store after this and find you have impacted that person just by your being as soon as you walk into the store. So these are the things that are very mystical and in which I relate to elements of shamanism for me in the practice, and how I could see the roots and the bones of Zen practice, but of all Buddhist practice in a very shamanic way. And we'll talk about this more later in questions and answers so you can get more clear. So I want to say again, making offerings is an act of spirit through our bodies. We are not doing something, we are being led to an alignment with the unseen, suchness, the unexpressible, and the unsurpassable. Okay. I want to talk about ancestors, but I'm going to wait just a moment to let you know how I have experienced making offerings. And the first opportunity I had to do it with was with people who had a sense of African spiritual cosmology. And then I later would constantly meet and participate in African indigenous traditions in which offerings were made. So I wrote in the many ceremonies I participated in with seers of the Vodun tradition from Dahomey, Africa, there was always a huge altar in honor of the beloved ancestors. All the elements that sustain our lives were present. A large fire to satisfy and receive the ancestors. Their favorite foods, sweets, and liquor, cigars, or other forms of tobacco. All of these were offered so that the singing, drumming, and dancing would be received and the prayers lifted into the atmosphere. And that was my African experience, ceremonial experience, part of it. Of course, it was much larger than that, but I'm just focusing on making offerings and what that looked like so you can have a different view. So then I participated in Lakota tradition style ceremony. In the Lakota way, ceremonies that I participated in, altars were made on the ground from the soil of the land. They served as a place to bring the bones and skins of animal ancestors, viewed as medicine. And they held the chanupas, or pipes, which were filled with the prayers of those who were to dance on behalf of the community. Medicines of the earth, such as sage, sweetgrass, and cedar, were infused with prayer and offered in turn to the ancestors and to the participants of the ceremony. So again, there's a collective way of offering, even though maybe individuals are making those offerings. Then, of course, there's the Buddhist style. Central to the ceremony life of most, if not all, Buddhist traditions are ritual offerings to ancestors. Food, flowers, water, incense, rice, sweets, tea, sculpted offerings, and other significant items are given to invoke and honor the ancestors of the lineage or school. And so this action of that is not doing, in the sense that we are like to know doing, is an important part of the practice, especially in Buddhism. And a lot of times we overlook what's happening during the making of offerings. We're kind of like, can't wait till that part gets over. And I remember the first time I had to, or I won't say you had to, was given the privilege to make offerings at the altar with the, I talked about the lacquer containers and having to hold those. And I used to watch the other teachers doing that. And I would say, oh my God, I'm glad I don't have to do that. You know, I'm going to drop everything if I do it. And so I had all of that in my mind when it was my turn to do it. And so when I got up there, I could feel like, okay, if my hand shakes, this is going to go over. It's going to just fall. But something came into my body and said, these offerings are to be made, not just for you, not just because you are standing in front, not to show off, not to be perfect for your teacher or perfect for the assembly, but to just make the offering. And so when I got that in my body, I was able to hold on to, you're not really grasping it, but to offer the lacquer bowls, and to also feel more than the thing I was doing, you know, but to feel into the whole ceremony and to sense the silence and the stillness that was happening right in the moment, because a lot of people are kind of holding their breath at this as this is happening. And so some people, it allows them to breathe during that time, to pause, to take time before diving into whatever's going to happen after the offering. So it's a great way to offer meditation, that you're meditating, that there's zazen, that there's a lot going on, you know, in that ritual. And since I mentioned zazen, there was a question that came to me that said, yes, I really enjoyed you talking about the rituals and the ceremonies and chanting, but it sounded like you were just talking about chanting in forms. And I thought that the core of Zen was Zazen, and not the rituals and not the forms. And I said, this is exactly the reason I wrote the book, this question. Because yes, indeed, Zazen is the core of the practice. And it is actually the largest ritual of Zen practice, Zazen. It is a ritual. So in our minds, we have this idea that ritual is always candles, food, rice, tea, incense, all the things I named, right? Water, cigars, what all these things I was naming. But Zazen itself is a ritual. It is the largest ritual. It is the sitting ritual, the seeing ritual, the prolonged being ritual of the practice. And we are in ceremony when we are doing that ritual. In other traditions, it's just meditation, maybe called meditation, not Zazen. Or if you have other practices, there's another word for it maybe. But Zazen, seated meditation, is the ritual. So in fact, if some of you have read the book, you know I have a large section on ritual and Zazen as ritual. So I wanted to make sure I answered that question, because a lot of times when we think of ritual or shamanism or bones or anything, we think outside of Buddhism. I got to go over here to get that. And even though I practice with African indigenous communities or with Lakota style indigenous communities, and then in Buddhism, it doesn't mean that I had to step out of Buddhism to go there. You know, I don't have to do the African. That Buddhism itself is it. It was the same to me, the Lakota, the African, the Buddhism. So a lot of times when we bring the words ritual and ceremony and shamanism to Buddhism, we're like, is that Buddhism? That's the question that comes up. Is that really Buddhism if we're doing that? And if we're doing ritual and ceremony, is that a sin or a taboo or something else? Is it something outside? And I think that very thinking and that separation from Buddhism as being an earth-based wisdom practice can stifle how we enter the temple, how we practice at home, how we practice with each other, that we are in ceremony even with each other. And if we're thinking that way, then often we may not even, well, if we're thinking that way, we think of each other as being part of the ceremony rather than, I don't know if I like that person. I don't know if I want to be in ceremony with that person. That person is doing this. Those people are doing that. You know, all of these things drop away. Because when you're in ceremony, you're in it. You're not thinking about other than maybe taking care of each other, about each other in that individualistic way. There's more of an integral kind of communal way of being in practice, a collective way of being in practice. Sitting in Zazen is collective, chanting is collective. And these are very important, I think, to how you might experience the practice and experience it to be less of a habit or less of a routine and less of a thing that you do, you know, like on your list. I walk, I jog, I meditate, I eat, like, whoa, wait a minute, hold up on that meditation part, because that is a little bit different than the list of things that you do. Hopefully, that it can be entered and seen and felt in a different way. So that way you do stop and make space for the meditation. You do the meditation even differently. You make space for it. You may even have an altar for it. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be a candle and a rock. Done. It's just a representation of the earth. You're stopping to give reverence to the earth, to give reverence to life. Could be anything. It could be nothing. It could be the altar within your own body, that you come to some kind of space within your own mind and body that feels of reverence, so that when you sit down at it or whatever position you take for stillness, that you are in reverence. So Zazen is a ritual, the biggest and longest ritual of all Buddhist practice. Not all, and I could say, I take that back, not all Buddhist practices, because many of them don't have meditation as core to the practice. Maybe it's chanting. And so it's important to know that. I found in traveling to Asian countries that many Buddhists do not sit. And that's not the core. There are other rituals and transmissions and all kinds of ceremonies. And it was great to see that, to know that, somehow meditation became superior, over all other activities, Buddhist activities. And so we can look at that, in our own lives and see what that means and what that's about. So, so let's talk a little bit about ancestors, and I want to give time for Q&A. So, oftentimes, and I talked a little bit, I think, about this last time. I'm not sure. I speak at so many places, but if it's a repeat, I hope it's helpful to you. But again, when we speak ancestors, suddenly we think, outside of Buddhism. Oh, now we're going someplace else. Even though in especially in Zen, we chant, the ancestors. We talk about Buddha, and we talk about, different teachers of the ancient past. Even in Christianity, they talk about Jesus. Every practice I've seen, there's some ancestral aspect to it, that there's ancestral wisdom that has brought the practice or the path forward. We are ancestral in ourselves. Something has brought us forward to this moment in time. Various lives have brought us forward to this moment in time. And so it's important, I think, to know that even as I speak, I have to give gratitude and thanks for this time and how I'm speaking and what I'm speaking about, because it's not come from just me. It has come from everything behind me, from aeons ago, aeons and aeons and aeons. And is it the same? Is it exactly the same as the ancestors, or is it exactly the same as Buddha or Jesus Christ, or, I'll even throw in there Sojourner Truth. Is it the same? Sojourner Truth or Harriet Tubman, any of these people, Howard Thurman, all these great people who came with such prophetic teachings, is it the same when I speak it or you speak it? Maybe not. Maybe it has some kind of, shift in it because of our lived experience. But the root of it, the bones of it, must be acknowledged, recognized, and honored. And I honor everything that has brought me to this moment in this time. I honor the Buddha. I honor everyone I just named. I honor the ancestors. I honor all the people who have taught me, have got me, and kept me alive. I didn't do it myself. I'll never be doing it by myself, ever. May feel that way, but that's not necessarily what is happening, right? So ancestors, so we get little like, okay, I got a question that came in. I don't think it was a question. I think the person was actually sharing about their ancestors and not really wanting to, deal with it and, think about them. And, I imagine they had some discord with the people in their lineage and that kind of thing. And I can stop and say there's no lineage. There's not one lineage that doesn't have something that we might want to ignore, at least like a human lineage in the human line, be that a spiritual human line or our own, bloodline. So I remember a friend of mine saying to me, she was just horrified about what her ancestors did, and she was going on. She was telling me, I guess specifically because I am Black, African American, and a descendant of slaves, enslaved Africans. And so she was going on, and I said, my own ancestors too have much to atone for, because I have seen, even in dreams, some of the destruction, that has occurred in my own lineage. If I could go back, I don't know my Pacific African lineage, but if I could go back, I bet I'd find some things I would not be proud of, So anyway, that's not the point. You don't pick and choose. You don't go, not that ancestor, but this one. Yes, I love. Not that ancestor, but not that one. Yes, I love grandma, but not grandpa, And I found myself doing that one time, invoking the ancestors I loved only, because people say, okay, everybody invoke the names of your ancestors. And I would just rattle off these names, blah, blah, blah. And then one day I sat down and realized, I said, what about that that alcoholic side of your family? The ones who struggled with alcohol. How come you don't name them? And I could hear them saying, what about me? What about them? What about the ones who went to prison? What about what they did to go to prison? Why aren't you calling their names? I had to ask myself that. And I sat with it for a long time and began to call their names much more, and to see them and to know that in the place that they are, wherever that is, if it's any place at all, that all the things they suffered were what they suffered. They weren't who they were, and they did cause other suffering. They did cause other suffering, other people to suffer, as I have caused other people to suffer in great ways. So I was able to allow them to be a part, because they were already a part of my lineage, no matter what I did, really. They weren't going anywhere. They're still there, meaning they're still in here, meaning I could find parts of myself that I was ignoring, my violence, my way of hurting people, or whatever I saw in them, my way of my absorption or obsession with things and people, different kinds of drink and food, everything that I did as a human being, that this lineage of humanness and humanity was wrapped up in everything that I did, and that this wonderful opportunity to make offerings to all of that was profound to me. Making offerings became more profound than ever before. It was an atonement, a wordless and peaceful atonement, a non-self loathing kind of way of reaching in and touching and embracing all of humanity that is within me. So even if that is difficult for many of us to embrace that bloodline. And it may be, of course, easier for us to, rattle off the ancestors of our spiritual lineage because we don't know them. Bashubanzu, Bashubanzu Daisho, all of them. We can do that. Buddha. So that's still good. And if it's not that I want it to be hard, do what's easy. What comes easy, at least it's being done. But also ancestors are beyond the bloodline. And I often don't tell folks about that one because they really jump to that. Okay, I don't want the bloodline. I'll take Earth. Because ancestors, the Earth is an ancestor, the sun and the moon. So I want to read to you this piece I wrote that's in the book that really makes sure I capture it all. Ancestors are everyone and everything that existed on the planet before your birth. Ancestors can include the earth, the moon, sun, and stars. They can include the people in your blood lineage, loved or unloved. Included are those whom we want to disown because we feel they did not walk with integrity or were harmful to others. Their wrongful actions have something to do with how we live personally and collectively, and they too are ancestors. Ancestors are also people in the lineage of your spiritual practice and beings in the lineage of life itself. All spiritual and religious paths are ancestral. They come from someplace, in other words. Buddhism is an ancestral practice in which the Buddha is the most revered ancestor. This is why offerings from the earth are made to his teachings. The Buddha knew himself to be a stream of ancestors. Now I would say from a stream of ancestors, also known as Buddhas. There were Buddhas before the one Buddha, who is exalted today. So even Buddha himself, the Buddha we know, we talk about Shakyamuni Buddha, had an ancestral lineage of Buddhas before him. So, and what he learned and what he brought, and even his dreaming, even his ability to walk in the forest and do what he did came from the wisdom he was taught and what he brought and learned from all of those before him. He didn't just suddenly become this almighty person alone. And he wasn't an almighty person after either. There were many and many across gender that had what he had and did what he did. So what I love about writing about this book and talking about it is this feeling of expanding. We talk about the vastness of the practice, but we don't live it as vast. Like it's really big. It's so far beyond Buddha. Like we can't touch even the teachings, right? We can't even touch it. Oh, we can't grab it. We can't know it, even though we want it. We want all of them. And it's impossible. We can only take a piece, taste it, love it or not, spit it back and get another one. This is it. This is that practice. What fits your life, and how you can live it, not live it better, how to be more improved, being self-conscious of how you are, but how can you be vast? How can you be far, further, boundless, unlimited. And still know there's this relative life bumping up against you. All these things that are happening in the world today. All these things that have always happened in the world and will probably continue. Doesn't mean you don't do anything about it. You still recognize it. And you honor all the people that do the work for well-being, no matter what path it is, spiritual, social justice, whatever way, whatever the path. So I want to make time for questions and answers or engagement. And I ask that you use raised hands. And I ask that you be brief, really brief, and try to be as concise as you can. And honor those in this ceremony right here on the screen by what you say, how you say it. See if you really need to speak or not. What's your motivation? Know that there's so many people in the room now. And notice how wonderful it does feel to have the silence. And I am going to, before I even take hands, I'm just going to stop for a moment and have what I call a Zoom sound pause. No sound for just a moment. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Zenju, and I just wanted to say if anyone has questions who wants to ask them in Portuguese, we ask that you just write a message directly to Fabio. We'll translate it and ask it in English, or Fabio, you can chat it with me as well. But it just takes too long to try and directly translate. So, yeah, if you want to ask a question in Portuguese, please do it through the messaging and not live. Okay. So Tony, you're first up. I'll unmute you and you can go ahead.
Okay, can I say one more thing? Sorry, Tony.
No, that's okay.
I was just sitting with what you said and feeling into the experience of it because I want to make sure I still see the person, right? Who is going Portuguese language, that that I see them, that they raise their hand, and then their question is read. I'm wondering, does it need to be read in both English and Portuguese?
Well, I think the problem we had last time was that the live there's no live translation from Portuguese to English, so we had to wait for the Portuguese to finish before it was translated. So just to save time,
But I do
if
want to see the people. Okay, that's
you
amazing.
want to see the people, okay, great.
Yeah,
So we'll just
I want to
make it
see
an
them
easy,
receiving my
yeah, add,
answer or response, so I want them
add,
to raise their hand.
yeah,
All Portuguese speakers, raise your hands.
yeah.
But then I
And-
think Fabio will know, hopefully have your question by then. Hopefully your
right,
question
right.
is sent to Fabio first, but still
Yes,
raise your hand. Then when we call your name, Fabio will read the English. I will respond. I want to see,
perfect.
yeah, this is the best. We're really working it out in time. So bear with us. All right. Thank you. Okay, Tony.
Okay.
Thank you, Zenju. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Zenju, this is my first class with you. I missed the first one, and I'm sorry about that. But I did catch up last night. And I cannot tell you how much you inspired me, which is why I need to say what I have to say right now, and I'll try to make it as brief as I possibly can. I'm a fourth generation curandero in the United States. My grandma and great grandma are curanderos from the Azores. So all my life I've been clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient, etc. On my 13th birth, and this is like for me, the unification of Zen and shamanism. On my 13th birthday, I had to go for a walk. Everything was fine in the house, but I needed to get out. So I went out, and I had at the loudest, most intense clairaudient experience I had ever had up to that point in time, at 13 years old. And the audio was 3 words: "What is it?" And my body trembled. It was like the whole world was trembling. It's still trembling. Make a very long story short, around my 14th birthday, my avro, my grandma, identified me as a curandero. The family lineage is energy healers, as the best way that I can say it. 14 years, I'm sorry, 47 years later, when I was 60 years old, I ended up at Zen Mountain Monastery for an introduction to Zen with Daido. I swear to you, when I got out of the car, there's a huge field at the monastery. Have you been there?
Mhm.
The field. I swear to you, when I got out of the car, every blade of grass was screaming, "What is it? What is it? What is it?" 47 years. Saturday morning, Daido had his class. He came in, he sat down, and he said, "The most important question in Zen is, what is it?" No separation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. I had chills all the time you're talking.
I hope we can meet some time. I am.
Yeah, I've taught at Zen Mountain Monastery. It's a very beautiful place. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to be teaching there next year, then too. So keep your eye open.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye bye. Next.
Did you say next?
Yeah.
Zenju? So Marianella,
Mhm.
are you? Yeah,
Yes, I'm here.
great. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Senju. Such an honor to be here and to hear you. I wanted to ask you to see if you can say more. I appreciate so much your highlighting the importance of acknowledging the lineage of hurt
Yeah.
and I wanted you to expand more on how do we offer some practices to do so, to embrace and to honor the lineage of hurt in facilitating collective healing.
Okay. So I personally wasn't talking about a lineage of hurt as much as including people in your lineage, in your bloodline that may have hurt you. So it's not a lineage of hurt, it's a lineage of people who have various ways they lived in the world. And some of that you maybe hurt you the way they lived, and others it did not. I feel that there are many, many modalities and practices you can do to deal with, trauma and woundedness. I found that in the practice, especially for me in Zen practices, that's why I wrote the book, is that the rituals and the ceremonies help me to do that. That right alongside people who even like personally hurt me in the Sangha, but to be right alongside them, chanting and sitting and bowing and offering incense was that way of collectively still being there, even knowing the hurt. This is not easy to do. I don't think it's for everyone, but for me, it was a way of still engaging and connected to people despite the things that they did that were that I would consider wrong or painful. And so in acknowledging your ancestors and making offerings, to them, I think is a way for you to open up to them. And in opening up, that is in fact the beginning of healing, right? And so if you're just willing to open up. Now, I'm not saying you have to. I had outright perpetrators. I've been assaulted physically, and so I'm not saying I have to put their names on the altar, but I do know that if I open to that, they are in the lineage. If they're in my lineage, actually, my assaults weren't from people in my lineage; they were just people in the world, so that their names aren't going up there, but if I had somebody like that, I would still be open at this stage in my practice to include and embrace, that person. I think often in Buddhism, we always think it's all about what's good. That is, and then we have to be good. That's why I love Mary Oliver's poem, Wild Geese. You don't have to be good and crawl on your knees for a generation. I love that poem. It's like, it's so hitting to me about the practice or any practice that we have to be good and that we do practice to be good, to be good people, despite that we have all of these frailties, right? And so as human beings, and so then when we still have them, we think bad of ourselves or we're not doing our practice well enough. And so I can invite you, I think, to look within yourself about the hurt and how hurt, I love the way you even said that, lineage of hurt, how it passes from you, through you, then through you to someone else. Because it is being passed, whether we recognize it or not. And that is an important thing to recognize, that there is a lineage of hurt. The way you put that, it's really powerful, that there is a lineage of pain and woundedness, but to know it and recognize it. Not always trying to, there's places where you can work with it, I said better, or trying to end it necessarily and let me fix it. But how can I use it to create a more open and vast life? How can I use it? How can I expand it a bit rather than have it constricted to this experience about that person? And I find when I expand it a bit, that person starts to drop off. I might add a few more folk in there, that may seem like they did some similar things to me, but and then I have to wait for them to expand. So it takes a while. And then after when there's the expansion there, then I feel that's the beginning of me of healing and coming to some peace with the past and feeling that as well. Because so I have actually done it, and I have seen people later that I've had problems with, and I'm just shocked of how I respond to them. You know, how like even there was like love, and I didn't even want that to happen. Oh no, I can't love them now. Then we're not going that far, you know. But really having, you know, like I was afraid of that, you know, but just expansion, even of the story, expand the story a little bit too about more of what was going on. Because a lot of times the stories have, they're embellished things. There's parts that are larger than what they were when the thing happened or things happened. So this is just some response.
Thank you so much. I so much appreciate what you're saying, that the transformative power of acknowledgement and, you know, the expansiveness that comes through that, and that you threw poetry there and Mary Oliver, because I think that is one of the most healing rounds is poetry. So thank you so much.
Poetry was my medicine, okay, and is my medicine. And I started writing it at 8 years old because I had already suffered so much by the time I was 8 and didn't think I was welcomed in this world. And poetry was my gateway. It also helped me enter Zen because of the poetry. But I do have a book called The Deepest Peace, and it has my poetry in there if you haven't seen that yet. But that one's the one. That's my modality. All right. All right. Next.
Erica.
Hi, thank you so much. Can you say a little more or a little about the shamanic Zen rituals and ceremonies around death and the other thresholds of our lives?
Okay. Can I get a little more specific about what is motivating that question for you?
Yeah, I was trying to be brief and succinct, but I was too brief. I am discerning a path of chaplaincy because of my desire to sit with not only death, but all thresholds. I don't believe chaplaincy is stuck just in the realm of death.
Right. Great. Okay. So very good. The ceremonies of death in Zen for me were pretty much the same as the ceremonies when I was a Christian. Although we think that the ceremony is just a funeral, but it's also going to the funeral home, the dressing of the body, the wake. You know, we had wakes in Christianity, and so it's very similar to Buddhism, where there is the dressing of the body, what this is what I've experienced, and the laying out of the body on dry ice. It's laid on dry ice because the body's going to be cremated soon. So there's usually not the embalming necessarily. So I'm not saying this is for everybody. The ceremonies are usually that I'm speaking of are for priests, our teachers, our Dharma transmitted teachers. What stands out for me is sitting there with the body. And I think that's across almost all spiritual paths. There's this time in which you're sitting there and you're observing the body and coming into connection to knowing how impermanent it is, and that it's just a body. And it's that this material and this mush, you know, this flesh and blood and all this and bones is not the person, right? Because we're looking at the person and it's like, and then over a few days on ice, things start to shift on that body. And you're like, oh my God, you know, so you really start to see it. And I think that is the practice of looking at impermanence. You know, in Buddhism, there are practices they go to the charnel grounds where the bodies are. And that's where the practice is, sitting right there and watching the bodies decompose. And this is to help us to not cling to this body, so that in our death, that in our death we are, well, we don't know what we are in our death, but when death comes, or when we know it's coming, that we're not clinging to the body, that we are understanding that there's something else of us that is there, and that was born, and that is now moving on. And I don't know what that, we don't know what that is necessarily. So the rituals and ceremonies, they're almost no different in sitting zazen, no different in offering incense or flowers or any of these things. Everything is an aspect of life, birth, life, and death. And so in ritual and ceremony, no matter what path or what even culture, sometimes it's the same. And so it's almost here, you get a really good idea that we kind of come in here just to learn and to learn about life and the nature of life. For what reasons we may not find out, but I don't know if we do or not. But I think even having people go on before us into death, and us making offerings to those who have gone on before us, is a way of understanding the life we're living in right now and connecting. So I can go on and on about that one, but I also am trying to be brief as I can. Okay. Yeah. And if you could, keep your hand raised when I'm responding, so I can see you where you are, to see if you're lost or something. I kind of lose people. All right. Thank you. Okay. Next.
Yeah.
Lorena.
I've unmuted you, but somehow we're not hearing you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
There we go.
Okay, great. I wasn't sure if that was me next or who. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Zenju, for your beautiful presentation. I feel very moved and inspired by all that you've shared. I feel a little uncertain about how to ask what I want to ask, but I'm just going to ask it. I guess maybe before I ask the question, the frame of reference is that I feel like an orphan child in this world. Yeah. Even in tradition, my Buddhist lineage, I feel like touches many. And I have great gratitude for spaces like this that have opened up during this time that I can come to and keep learning. I'm a student of Lama Rod, the Bhumi Sparsha community, and he does a lot with ancestor practice and whatnot. And I've tried to embrace during this pandemic period, especially, discovering for myself my connection with ancestors. And it's really hard. I don't know my lineage that well on both sides. I'm first generation Latina in this country. And there's a lot of historical and intergenerational trauma from the lineage that I do know. So I have a hard time going there. And I mostly zoom out to, okay, universe, sometimes even touching the land, feeling my connection to Mother Earth can feel so removed. And so I'm just wondering if you have any guidance for folks like me that want to approach this work with integrity, and maybe as a healing practice. And some things have occurred to me as I've been thinking about this question, and I raised my hand, like maybe it's just simple practice of opening up my altar every day with intention. I mostly rush in and it's like, it's already set and I'm just going to sit, So how can I make space? So I'm starting to answer that on my own, but I would welcome your thoughts and suggestions
Yeah, yeah. I see you're already on your way. Thank you for the questions. Good. Um, all of us have intergenerational trauma. Every human being has the same things, different ways in which they're experienced, but the same things, different ways of experiencing them. Opening up to ancestors also means opening up to oneself, to who you are, and to embrace all of those, before you is to embrace a lot. So if I were to, and I don't know, I'm a descendant of Africans who were enslaved, so I don't know my language, my land, or my people, and yet I do make offerings to my ancestors. And that trauma has long ago happened. And that trauma is inside of me. So, but I can still make those offerings to those people because I know they're still there. No matter what has been done, I know they're still with me. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be able to even do this work at all. I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk with you without that backup, of ancestors. It would be just so isolating and so disconnected for me. I wouldn't be able to connect to people at all. So I can tell you that the ancestor in my lineage that were born before Christ, I hear you. I can say, I see you and I know you. And that's all. And I can know they got in some mess and some trouble. I can know it wasn't perfect. I know their lives were not perfect. So looking at your own, what you feel is imperfect, and looking at yourself not only as a person of trauma, but a person of also much more than trauma, and to not go away from the trauma, but know it's there, but have a more expansive view of your life. And then you'll have a more expansive view of life itself. Because I used to go around talking about my life a lot, and I still talk about it, but as examples to the teachings. But I'm really more concerned about life. I feel a broader a view of suffering, not just my suffering. So even when I suffer, I know there's something way beyond even mine, but I don't go there immediately. I don't go say, oh, I'm suffering. Oh, but everyone else is. I don't do that in the next minute. That would be just like a bypass, what they call spiritual bypass. But what I do is just understand it, that this suffering, it could be from that ancestor from before Christ, the year 1 before Christ. I don't know, but to negate it, you don't have to relate to the trauma of it. I don't have to say, oh, relate to the trauma of the tribes that killed each other in Africa. Okay, let me relate to that. Oh my God. I don't have to do that in order to embrace those ancestors and what happened and what they did. I know the people did what they did and what they're going to do and they're doing now, my people now. And what about my people after I'm gone? So I think you were hitting on it in the end, like you said, not just sitting down, to your altar. I did a lot of altar practice in the beginning for myself. I did go to the my altar in the morning, and I had what I call I would bring my tea with me that I was drinking, and I would have what I call my morning committee meeting, and and it was a meeting with the ancestors. And I would talk, I wouldn't even get all caught up in it, making it all spiritual. I just have this talk about things, drink my tea, and this is going on, I would just have a talk about it. I wouldn't ask them for anything, beg them for anything, thank them for anything. I would just have a talk, like a committee meeting. and just to see, and then I would end my tea. I offer tea to them too, and then I would end it, and the next day be another meeting. And so I had so many meetings with people. I said, God, I'm just going to start meeting with my ancestors a lot more, and it really helped. It helped, and me not looking for something for them to do or anybody to do anything for me, but just to be present. To be present with you are here, not because you just came on your own. You decided to create a Lorena and come into life. No, there are so many. Oh, I wanted to share this. Oh, let me see if I can find it for a minute. I know we're running out of time, but there is this thing called Ancestors Mathematics. I don't know if anybody has seen this before, and this is what I meant to do before I definitely could have it sent to be in your resource, but it came, the last number came to about, they went from parents to grandparents to great grandparents, how many we have, and it kept going to, and it came to about over 4,000 people to get you here, at least 4,000 people, at least. That's just the minimum. That's the ones we can count, for sure. So I'm going to send that to Kikaku and have that put in the resources called the ancestral mathematics, something like that. So just keep it in the numbers if that's the best way, that so that you know, not so that you are necessarily, there are other places where you do that work, but I'm talking on a spiritual place. I'm a spiritual teacher. So I'm not going to give you the therapeutic or healing modality or method, because that's not my training. Although I have trained in it in some way, but just in walking in it and have received it myself. But I'm just offering you to go deeper into the path and not so much into the pathology of it all, to go into the path, into a path and see what it does for you, and without any judgment, if you can. And if you're finding it hard, pray for a soft place. Say for a soft place to hold all of life, because it's something that we're all doing, and people say pray to, I said, just pray. You don't have to pray to anybody, just put it out that this is what you need. You need the tenderness, you need the softness, you need the gentleness, and to walk in this world with the very hard things in a gentle way. Life is complex. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I thank your ancestors for bringing you. Thank you. I'm so happy they brought you here. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we have like 15 more minutes?
Yeah, 15 minutes.
How much?
Yeah, about
15 minutes. Okay. So this it's getting longer and longer.
Yeah, so everyone can please just go to Essence and
yeah, so
and
just
we're
gonna do pop.
Fabio, let us know if anybody's Portuguese questioner that has a question for Zenju.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
So
Bill?
I'm going to take all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 hands that are up now, and that's it. But so we might go over time. I'm going to be short as I can too on my answers, and if those who need to leave, this is too much, I get it. So take care of yourself in this, Bill. Okay.
Thank you, Zenju, and thank you, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, briefly.
Okay, yes. My temple, the Zen Center of Denver, has all of these rituals and ceremonies, which thankfully with the pandemic easing has, we're able to do more in person. But I see in the temple and on Zoom especially, people who are very reluctant to participate. And it's kind of makes me sad for them. And it also, I feel like there's a disconnect with the Sangha. And obviously you can't tell these people, force them to do it, but how would you
Yeah.
see this encouraging people without, you know, making them feel.
It's very hard for people to enter Zen, especially because of the rituals and ceremonies, which is exactly why I wrote the book, because it's not explained what is happening here. Why can't we just come, sit, talk, and go home? And why are we doing all this other stuff? And the other stuff is the stuff. And so people who are disengaged means that the way the ceremony is moving is not, they have to be taught eventually something about what's happening there, you know, but not in a way that's in an instruction, you know, left foot here. I think I talked about that last time. You know, if it's just that, you know, if you tell someone, you know, are trying to help someone ring a bell, then you're not just telling them the bell pattern, but you're saying we are waking up the ancestors here, and we're going to do that right now. Bing, 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 bing. You know, if you can, this would be new for Zen centers to say and do as well, rather than just kind of, you know, going through the motions. And so it has to be, I think, taught more. Have them read the book, The Shamanic Bones of Zen. They may understand it better. One reason why I wrote the book too, to help some people enter a Zen monastery. Don't have to enter Zen practice, but enter and understand a little bit of what's going on there, that it is a shamanic practice, and that most majority of, I think, Western transmission has been Vipassana, it has been lay Vipassana, and it has been just coming in and hearing a talk. And so that other practices that have a lot, you know, rituals and ceremonies going on is much too much. Okay, I'm moving on to Tati. Thank you.
Zenju, I was especially touched realizing how carefully you were taking care of this space as a kind of a ritual we are sharing together. And you were waiting to be able to see the other one, and even to listen the other one in its own voice. In these days that we are using a lot this kind of platform, I think that this focus you offered was it's so important. So I would love to hear you a little bit more about it, about how important it is to leave this space knowing that we are ritually together. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important in a sense so you can make a distinction between, say, a lecture or a conference talk as opposed to what we're doing today. You know, that a lot of people see talks as lectures a lot, or it's intellectual. And that's why it's very hard to do Zen on Zoom, because it's really about doing. There shouldn't really be hardly any talking. Like, I'm talking way too much, you know, way too much, you know. And I often wondered, what if I came and just sat quietly and silently, like Ramana Maharshi did in his teachings, you know, just. And all of us are just that way, and maybe a few words, and then we go home. It probably would have been done at 11:30, right? Yeah, it might have gotten a lot, you know. So that's all I can say. It helps you see the difference, hopefully, and even we can do it on Zoom too. We can create space that is by how we speak, how we are, and what we do. And I did offer made the offerings before we started. I made my offerings. Okay, thank you. Okay. So now.
So this is a question from Sionei. He's Brazilian. So maybe you could spotlight him, Noah, so Osho can see.
I can see him. I see him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Osho, this is his question. Usually, ritual could be defined as the creation of a space and time that is different of the everydayness of life. If so, where does the ritual begin and end? Because in the example of the funeral, you told us that the ritual extends beyond the ritual as a form extends beyond the holy field or the cemetery.
Yes, yes. Yeah, thank you for asking that. Rituals don't begin and end, they continue. And I love the way a shaman expressed when we wake up in the morning, we're already starting in the cosmic ceremony of life, that it's always going on, and because maybe we do have some forms and a few ways to express that cosmic ceremony, in our spiritual path. It's so that it becomes part of our body, so that we are walking with, that ceremony all the time. I walk with all the ceremonies I've been in. I've been in a lot. I walk, they're not over by any means. So, quick answer. Thank you. Okay. All right. Do we move forward? Yeah. Okay. Correct? Okay.
Alice.
So much. This is profoundly helpful to me. To be brief, I grew up an only child in an alcoholic household. So my approach to my ancestors was to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I walked into, which I'm very grateful for, is Buddhism. And I mastered spiritual bypassing for decades. And fortunately, somebody pointed out to me that it actually was affecting me. And I learned that, and I want to move into that. And so what you're saying is very helpful. But I find that when I'm opening to my mother, my father, they died, my father when I was in my 20s, my mother when I was in my 30s. And I realize more about them, my view of them opening up. I get a feeling of sadness that I couldn't see more then, that I can't, they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself wanting to interact, but I know they're not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But in a sense, they're here. I don't know if I'm expressing this well.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Great, thank you.
I understand completely. And I moved away from my family home in my 20s. There were some things even in the city. I'm from Los Angeles. I was tired of the things going on there. And I moved from my parents and from my sisters. Everybody was like, "Okay, I'm done with you," and in a way, even though I had deep love for everybody. And but guess what? I didn't move from them. I might have physically moved from them, but they were all still there. They're all still here, and your parents are still with you. You just look at yourself, have a talk with yourself about those things that are inside of you, and make an offering. Make an offering of acknowledgement of those people, because they also gave you breath. They gave you breath. They gave you that life for you to even understand how maybe it wasn't so great, like to even see that, to even have insight. I often feel that this insight I have is not my own. It's not my own, or any wisdom that comes through. It's not mine. So I make offerings, even if I still struggle, and I can make an offering to the struggle, make the offer, whatever. But just it's you, your bones. Okay. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Okay. And the last person. Thank you. Last person.
Thank you very much.
Ed, how do you say your name? Ida?
Edda.
Edda? Okay.
I feel that I want guidance from you in that I feel blocked.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a huge block towards my ancestors.
Mhm.
And somehow it's just a very, well, now I'm getting emotional. I have no clue why, but
I have a clue.
you know, I think they were around me, but
Yeah.
I just can't connect.
Mhm.
And so I'd like to know what, and I definitely have an altar, but it's just like weird. I just have a real, I need to like unblock or have safety, trust. I have no idea.
So some of what separates us are the experience that we've had there in the past and are now gone. And you're still there. You're still in that. And the separation is not with them, but within you, not from them, but within you. I would say, and I call on that for you, that they're right here with you, like you said. I feel that's where those tears came from, because you feel that love. You love them, they love you. I felt as soon as you started crying. You know, even though there's pain in there is that love. And it's very hard. It's a very difficult path to open up to a path that's both painful and in which you seek love at the same time. And I feel that it would really, you know, you're just sharing so much of your heart right now. And to really, yes, take that breath you just took. Keep taking that breath. Yes.
I mean, like, why does it have to be so painful? I mean, it's not even a why.
I get you. I know.
I think when you said separation, like, I just would love it if I could, like trust or feel safe, but I just
Yeah.
can't.
Don't force yourself. Don't force yourself into it. Just ask for it. Just say it out. I want to trust. Just put it out. And then let it go and see if it happens. You can't force anything at all. Anything at all. And you can't use your mind to do it, because your mind's going to find a reason not to. It might be finding a reason not to right now. You know, that's the mind. It's very masterful. If you're right, we know that one. Yeah, I like that smile there. And so, yeah, I have this thing, laugh at the mind, laugh because it's really something else. I always say that to myself. I said, Zenju, girl, you are something else. I say that all the time, especially when I go full circle with myself around how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling and how that thinking takes me out and then back. And then I go, woo, that was a long journey. And was only 5 minutes long. And so I've gone around the world. And so I think it's very important, Ida, to keep that breathing, and to honor yourself for your effort. Honor your effort. You are just so open-hearted. Honor that. Honor your open-heartedness. Don't do the people, do the earth, do the moon, do the sun. And honor yourself. And in honoring yourself, I had to honor myself in order to come face to face with a violent mother. She's on my altar, biggest day. I don't see that when I see their face, but I used to. But it took time in her coming and allow the violence and the love. The violence, I loved her, and there was violence, and that made for crazy making on how I interrelated with people, because I didn't know. Does it have a punch to it to have love? I don't know. I didn't know. And it takes some work, professional work. I always say that. Do not negate the professionals, the people who do that work so well, to reach out and ask for help.
Thank you. I get it. It's not easy. I mean, I feel sometimes mechanical, you know, like in doing my offering or even just sitting on my zafu. I mean, it's like little to no connection, except that I continue to do it. Because
So
it's not the only thing I know how to do.
With your zafu, and I'm going to try to do this in a minute. With your zafu and your, this is the things we do in Zen. I want you to keep it clean. I want you to get a special brush for it. You brush it, brush it, brush it. Brush your zafu. Keep it clean. Wash that area. Wash. Keep these areas clean. I clean these altars. When I see like, I wash down the altar, dust and dust and dust. You know, and then don't put just any old flower. What is your favorite flower? What a flower that they might want? You know, what is your favorite food? Make it what you can feel, not just doing it, but what you can feel, you know, and then that's all that's needed, really, you know, in some sense. So you know, and change it, move it to another space. Don't have it where other people can sit on it. I don't let people sit where I sit. They don't sit on my zafu. You know, they just don't. And if I had a pet, I would have to get that pet their own zafu. You know, they cannot sit on my zafu, you know. So, you know, just like they can't get in my bed, you know, whatever can get in your bed, you know, like, come on, you know, so really having sacred space, you know, for you to cry, for you to be. I used to just lay down in front of my altar and just cry. That was my meditation for years. For years. It wasn't sitting and breathing and my posture, and no, I laid out. Do what you need to do. Lay out, lay down, put a blanket on you and lay down. Have your water there and lay down in front and cry. That was to be the best thing for you.
Thank you.
All right.
I mean, like, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I love you. I love everyone. Thank you for coming out. I see some of my aspirants who sit with me. Kahi, that's only can see one page. And so thank you, everyone. I don't know if there are any other announcements. Thank you, everyone.
Zenju, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that it's not the last one. These are such rich times with you and in dialogue. The next one for everyone will be May 1st, and it will be on rituals of celebration and initiation. So, and do you still want people to write you questions?
I thought that was very helpful to me. You know, I might not be able to answer, but, you know, I did answer a few folk. I don't remember what they had asked, but I did do that. And so I am so interested in this work, in this book, because it's more than a book to me. I feel like I you know, it's my personal revolution of Buddhism. You know, I want to revolutionize it. I want to energize it. I want to bring it as a way. I want it to be as strong as our activism, you know, so that we can use it. So we don't have to do activism and then go over here and then go to that it's just all together, you know, that it's integrated and how we can do that. So thank you, Upaya. Thank you, Joan Halifax Roshi, for inviting me and being as excited as I was about this book early on, jumped 2 feet down and signed me up for all of these events. That you're very fortunate. There's another aspirant, and voila. So this thank you all for the support. And I feel it. I feel you in my hearts. Thank you, Fabio. I love the Portuguese song. I had a really great time early March with that song. I haven't forgotten it. I loved it. Yeah. All right.
And Zenju, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So just info at zenju.org. info at zenju.org. So I may not be able to get to everyone, but maybe I can. And if not, I just like to hear where everyone is a little bit around, and it helps me kind of like I was able to drop 2 responses in today from some questions. So yeah, let me know how you're doing. And please share what I'm bringing. Not, you don't have to share the book. I really don't. You know, I'm not the best one. I didn't sell my Girl Scout cookies very well either. So I'm the best one for selling things. But yeah, you know, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Zenju. And we'll put the donation link, and just please everyone give generously so we can support Zenju and Upaya and her work in the world. And it's just such a delight to sit in the deep ancestors with you, sit with the deep ancestors. Thank you.
Thank you.